Good Monday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns celebrating an impressive win over the Tennessee Titans over at Cleveland Browns Stadium yesterday. Now 2-1 on the year, tied with the Baltimore Ravens for first place in the AFC North. Let's head inside the locker room and hear what Kevin Stefanski had to say to his team.
We need each other, okay? In this season, it's hard. We need each other. And that's what I saw all week from this group, okay? And then what I saw on the field from that group, okay, how about this one? 2 for 2, Dustin, including a 52-yarder. Okay, on offense, how about that quarterback?
Okay, Q. Yeah.
Okay, Q. I think it. 27 of 33, 289, 2 touchdowns. Cooper. Seven for 116, a touchdown, and 3 penalties drawn. Yeah.
Let's keep having fun and let's keep winning.
Defense. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the defense. 6 first downs. Okay, 94 total yards. 2 for 12 on third down.
Oh my God.
26 rushing yards. 5 sacks, including 3.5 from number 95. Okay, talking about being a resilient bunch. Okay, we need each other. The guy that we don't have here right this minute with us, but he's always with us, is number 24.
Yes, sir.
He's getting this game ball. Okay,
Yes,
because he's
sir.
so important to this team.
With that, let's welcome in Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle Telegram as well as BrownZone.com. Scott, you were there. What stood out to you about this one with the Browns?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was 3 things, Dave. I mean, the defense was unbelievable, right, for the 3rd straight week. Played at an incredibly high level, started with the run game against Derrick Henry, one of the best in the game, and they really shut him down and went from there. Myles Garrett, a huge part of that with the 3.5 sacks, a forced fumble, drew penalties on a hold, a false start, made him force a timeout with the tight ends going back and forth. Just, he had a huge game. And then Deshaun Watson. I think a lot of people were down on him for good reason. After the Steelers game, he hadn't played well in his first 8 starts with the Browns. I think the panic level is starting to rise among fans, and he calmed things down with how well he played and how accurately he threw the ball, right? That was a big issue. He'd completed so many passes, high percentage with Houston, and then hadn't done that in his first 8 starts, and then goes for 82% yesterday. So I thought there was a really positive sign.
Yeah, I that was what we saw yesterday. Was more of what I think everybody was expecting from Deshaun Watson. You mentioned the defense, and it's nearing some historically good things. So this is first 3 games, yards allowed since the merger of the AFL and the NFL back in 1970. Buccaneers allowed 430 in the first 3 in 1999. The Lions, the year of the merger, allowed 431 in 1970. And the Browns, through 3 games, have allowed 491 total yards. Myles Garrett, on what the first 3 weeks have shown him with the Browns.
Have the opportunity to be special, but you got to keep on earning it. Keep on, putting down on paper, doing it on the field, day in and day out. It doesn't just happen on Sundays. It happens throughout the week. How you prepare, how you work, day in and day out. How you take care of your body. Those things, those all equate to what happens on Sunday, and guys are really keyed in to getting the most out of each other.
Considering the huge change on offense with Nick going out, what did you think of Deshaun's day and the potential significance of it moving forward?
He's only getting better and better. He's only gaining more chemistry with his guys, and starting to adjust to the pace of the game again. The guy was out for a while, so he's got to take his time and get into his groove, and he's finding it. And it's just a perfect timing because I think we're settling in our own way as well.
And we'll get to Watson in a minute. Scott, it's interesting. Anytime you bring up something about the defense, they kind of say, yeah, we got to keep doing it. You like hearing that.
Yeah, I think they have the right attitude, and it's not a satisfied, hey, they expect to do this, and I think that's huge. Juan Thornhill, we talked to him today, and he's been having big predictions for this team since he got here in March, and this is what he envisioned. He thought they'd be, I don't know if he thought they'd be quite as good, but he thought they'd be really good. And, they have the pieces up front. They have the pieces in the back end. I think the linebackers are good enough and are making plays. It feels like it's all there. Starts with coordinator Jim Schwartz. Obviously, he's a big piece of this. But, we talked about the defensive line so many times. I think the cornerbacks, allowing Schwartz to play as much man coverage as they do, helps everybody, helps the front four. And the stats are unbelievable. They're first in the league in rushing, first in the league in passing, scoring, and 2 of the touchdowns were, were defensive touchdowns scored by the Steelers, so they shouldn't even count against the Browns defense. You look at the yardage, you had that stat. They're first in the league. The next 3 teams have only played 2 games, and they play tonight for Monday night. And then Buffalo's the next team that's played 3 games, and they've given up like 80-plus yards more than the Browns per game. So that's huge, and that leads directly to points.
So the other thing that is becoming apparent is there's a little bit of chemistry between Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson. Take a look at this, and again, this is one of those deep shots that they took, and he got behind the defense. And the other thing is, take a look at Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson kind of celebrating together, and you can tell Stefanski showing some emotion. And Scott, the reason I show that, there's a lot of times people are upset about Kevin Stefanski. There is some evidence, there's a little bit of fire and a little bit of emotion with his players, which is all you need.
Yeah, I think people get the wrong impression a lot of times, right? You see him on the sideline, he's stoic, and that's part of his personality. He's an even-keel guy, but he's got emotion. He relates to players. Maybe it's not the same as a Dan Campbell, right? But it's there. I mean, Watson made a beeline towards Stefanski. Like, he didn't run down the field to celebrate his teammates. He ran towards Stefanski. I think there's something to be said for that, because that connection needs to be super strong between coach and quarterback. It felt like yesterday was a day to kind of answer a bunch of critics, right? Watson had taken a lot of grief, and I think rightly so. I think less so for Stefanski, and even less so for Myles Garrett. People continue to pick on Myles Garrett if he has a game without a sack, even if he's double and triple teamed, even if he gets pressure, he just doesn't get the sack. Whatever it is, I thought he played well against Pittsburgh. He still took grief from at least some people on social media, and then he comes back with 3.5 sacks. So those are some of the things that stuck with me from yesterday.
Well, Watson, post-game yesterday, talked about the keys to his play and what he needs to do moving forward.
Just being able to take what the defense give us. Don't try to do too much. And, last week was, starting off, we didn't start off well. So, of course, trying to press on and get that seven points back early on was, not what we wanted to do. But we came in this week, and we just took it one play at a time. And whatever I can do to get completions, and, the completions is really good for not just myself, but for the O-line, for the receivers, and for Kevin, calling plays. So just trying to do that, and just keep building on to learn from this tape.
So, Scott, and we talked a little bit before the show. It looked to me like they were in shotgun a little more, or they were, maybe a better way to say it is, they were finding easy throws for Deshaun Watson. And I do that because he's going to make plays like the touchdown to Cooper just because of who he is. Do you get the sense they were trying to find things to get him in rhythm early?
Yeah, but, I think they've been trying to do that, Dave. And I think yesterday he just did a better job of taking advantage of those opportunities. We talk about him holding the ball too long. Well, yesterday he didn't do it nearly as much. Maybe early in the game, I thought he got much better as the game went on. Felt like the pressure was there on him early, and then after that, he made quicker decisions. I think Stefanski's been trying to get him quick completions, but Watson maybe hasn't always seen it, hasn't always pulled the trigger, and I thought he was better yesterday. It's easier to call plays when he's throwing it well, and he threw it well down the sideline, right? He had the long fade to Amari Cooper that should have been the touchdown, but he got called out of bounds. long fade to Donovan Peoples-Jones in the second half was a perfect throw. Like, he sprinkled in some difficult throws with then the quick, whether it's a hitch or a hook over the middle. Like, they got him enough of those where I did feel he was in a rhythm. And then they, caught the big one late to Amari Cooper where he just ran by it. The Titans blew a coverage. And that's when they had that celebration on the sideline. And they've been looking for more of that, and they haven't been able to get it. I think Watson's missed a couple chances for it. Yeah, I know he did against the Bengals. So it just felt like all those things they've been trying to do schematically kind of showed up yesterday. And I think you're right. There's more. They've been incorporating more shotguns since he got here, more empty backfield since he got here. And I think it's just natural to expect that to continue to grow the further he goes along, and then without Nick Chubb in the backfield.
Yeah, the other thing is it would be human nature for him to try to do a little bit more than he's, maybe it's just kind of settled in for him and he realizes, let me take the 5, 6, 7 yard throws and I'll find my spots to get the knockout punch, if you will.
Yeah, and he talked about handling his emotions. He said he did a better job yesterday than he did in Pittsburgh, and that was obvious with those frustration face masks that he got, and those are huge plays in the game.
And you know what? If he plays like he did, and again, 88%, you can't expect that. If he plays similar to how he played against Titans, this team's going to be awfully hard for anybody to deal with, without question.
I mean, the defense playing like it gives any offense a chance, right? Because they're not going to give up a bunch of points. At least that's how it looks. So therefore, you just need your offense not to shoot itself in the foot, not to give the other team touchdowns or short fields. And if you add on to that a quarterback who can make whatever it is, 5, 8, 10 plays a game, then you're at a really high level and you can win a ton of games.
The Browns did make some roster moves as well, minor ones though. So the Browns signing tight end Devin Asiasi to the practice squad, former third-round pick of the Patriots, was with the Bengals last season. That's according to Mike Garafolo. And then the other news that came out over the weekend. So Nick Chubb's injury, not as serious as initially believed. Supposedly only tore his MCL and stretched his ACL. So pre-surgery projected recovery time 6 to 8 months. Again, never know for sure until they get in there and see exactly what's going on. But that is certainly really good news for Nick Chubb if it's just the MCL.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's very encouraging. Now, again, it's cautiously optimistic. They need to go in there, get inside the knee, see exactly what happened, see how stretched that ACL is, if it needs to be repaired or if they can just let it go. See how the patellar is, all that involved in the knee, because it looked too serious just to be an MCL. Now, I know that the stronger your legs are, I think that helps when you have a severe injury like that. And we know how strong Chubb's legs are, and he does all those squats, so maybe that does help him in this situation. But I think, that's the early thought, is that it's an MCL, and then you hope it's not anything else when they get in there. And if that's the case, I mean, I know that I wondered if this was a career-ending injury, especially given what he went through with Georgia in 2015 with 3 torn ligaments, the dislocated knee, the kneecap in the same knee or the same leg. You wonder about that. But if it's at the less severe end, I think that's really good news. And then you can have optimism that Chubb will be able to play and be able to play next season.
Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, BrownsZone.com, and I are going to step aside to a quick timeout. Head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Browns beat reporter Scott Petrak of the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, as well as brownzone.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. I just want to say, great game calling by Kevin Stefanski. It did seem like he simplified the offense for Watson, and the players, they just downright executed today. That was the best game Watson has played thus far. Now, I want to get on to this ferocious defense. If you think about it, the offense has caused the defense to miss out on 2 shutouts already. Bengals game, they scored a field goal because of one, and the Titans got lucky to get 3. The defense actually moved them backwards. And so far, I have to say the Browns have the best defense in the NFL. Forget the Cowboys. Forget the 49ers. Look right here in Cleveland. That distinction resides here in the dog pound. Let's go. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Scott, it's you're running out of really good things to say about the defense other than let's hope they can keep playing like they are.
Yeah, and like we talked about, it's through every level. And it starts with that front, and it's Myles Garrett, and it's Adarius Smith, and Obo Okoronkwo at the other end. And even Alex Wright gets his first career sack yesterday, the second-year defensive end. Dalvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith made sure reporters remembered Dalvin Tomlinson because he's so critical in the run defense yesterday, stopping Derrick Henry. You got Mo Hurst has gotten penetration and pressures and sacks from that defensive tackle spot. Anthony Walker, I think, is playing at a high level. JOK, you see Taki out there. Grant Delpit's everywhere. And then those corners. Denzel Ward is playing really well. For a guy that I thought was fine last year, I thought he got off to a rough start earlier in the year and then played better, but the analytics and metrics kind of dogged him all year long. I thought he was better than that. And then this year, no one can deny how well he's playing. He's getting his hand on a ton of balls.
So the other thing that kind of is flying under the radar, under Kevin Stefanski, the Browns are winning at home, 18-9 for Kevin Stefanski at home. And again, that's the beginning of you have to win your games at home. That's the level, even that's the lower end of what a really good franchise wins at home.
Yeah, and I know he talks about the dog pound every week and bringing the energy from the Muni lot. It is important. Obviously, the Browns historically have had a big home field advantage. We know how passionate the fan base is, but when you're losing, that's hard, right? And I think fans for years have started out really excited, and then that wanes because the team loses, and then something goes wrong, and by the second quarter, people start to turn a little bit. And I think the more kind of goodwill they build up, the better they look, the more wins they get, that's only going to feed upon itself.
Well, you touched on this earlier, and this is from Jake Trotter. Deshaun Watson, 82% completion percentage, second best mark of his career, was also 19 of 21, 214 yards to wide receivers, career best. 40-yard touchdown to Cooper, most air yards of any completion. Also had one taken away because of a botched call. I don't often criticize the referees. I will on that. The other thing that was really interesting is, Scott, he hit chunk throws, but they were in addition to where he took the yards that the defense is saying, here, take these. And he said, all right, we'll take them and come back.
Yeah, I thought it was a real good mix. You know, one of those callers talked about Stefanski's game plan. I thought it was solid. I thought it was interesting at the beginning. There was a lot of, I don't know, tricks. There's a lot of different stuff, a lot of things to make the Titans think. And Stefanski said that was because they wanted to go wide. They wanted to stretch the Titans defense wide. So they had, you know, hitches and sweeps and, you know, all kinds of different things. They did early reverses to get the Titans moving back and forth because the Titans are so sound and stout, you just run right at them. So there's a method to the madness, but it just felt weird. And then I think the game plan settled in, the play calling settled in, and then it really took off after that. You know, that stat's interesting about the 40-plus yard throw. I mean, that was such an easy one because the Titans blew coverage. Cooper just ran right by everybody, and it was an easy throw. But I do think it speaks to the desire of the offense to stretch the field. And they were not good at that last year. They lacked explosive plays. They went out and got Elijah Moore. They went out and got Marquise Goodwin and spent a lot of time talking about developing that. And if for this offense to reach its full potential, that's going to have to be part of the game. And Watson's shown he can make those throws. Historically, he just hadn't done that since with his time with the Browns.
So Kevin Stefanski talked about, and this was today, about what he saw from Watson yesterday against the Titans.
You know, he did a great job on a number of fronts, but I think that's part of playing the quarterback position is sometimes you play with a linebacker's mentality, obviously, because you want to be emotional and you want to, bring that fire that you have. I mean, that's necessary to play that position because you're a leader. Then there are times that you got to rein it back in. And I thought he did a really nice job, saw it very clearly yesterday, delivered accurate throws, decision making was great. So he was on point yesterday.
And Scott, you touched on it. It's a balancing act.
And it's those, to me, Dave, with Deshaun Watson, it's three things. It's seeing the field, decision-making, and throwing with accuracy. And the reports out of Houston were always that he did all those things well. And since he's been here, I felt like he was slow seeing the field. And part of that, I'm sure, is the long layoff, right? And then it's accuracy and getting the ball and making the quick decisions and the right decisions. And I felt like he was slow. So that's tied in. Seeing the field, decision-making, that's tied in. And then on top of that is the accuracy. And I think that probably ties in too, right? If you're seeing it and feel like you're thinking clearly, then the throws are going to be where you want them to be because he has traditionally thrown the ball well and thrown it accurately. So, it's like I didn't want to pile on too much after that Steelers game. I don't want to, as the guys say, throw too many flowers after this game. But it was certainly a step in the right direction, a step that the Browns needed to take and Watson needed to take, and encouraging because he does have this track record of success. You just needed to see it here, and this was the first time you really saw it in a Browns uniform.
So along those lines, this is interesting. So in his first 8 starts with the Browns, this is 20 yards plus downfield, passing, throwing 20 yards plus. First 8, 5 of 21, 146, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Last week, just yesterday, 4 of 5, 116, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So, again, you hope that's him feeling more comfortable, getting some of the rust off, more comfortable with Kevin Stefanski's system. It's pointing in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, look at those 4 throws. I mean, off the top of my head, I think one's a touchdown to Cooper, one's a touchdown to Ford, right? It's a 19-yard touchdown, but the ball's in the air longer than that. And he's wide open, right? He runs a great double move. It's slant and go. Says he learned from watching Amari Cooper how to, run that route. And they had him talk about empty. They went empty. They got him wide. He's on a linebacker, and he's too good for the linebacker. So it's an easy throw for Watson, but he spots it, makes it. And then the other 2, I think, were those fade routes down the sidelines to Cooper and then DPJ, and those were big-time throws.
All right, so it's apparent that that Watson and Cooper are developing a chemistry. Watson talked about that yesterday.
Amari doing a heck of a job of just communicating. I think the biggest thing is just communicating sometimes if I don't see a certain route or see a certain guy, how he's playing, he's coming to the sideline, and I think you've seen it today. He sat beside me and he was just talking to me. Hey, look, this is what I'm seeing, this is what they're doing, and I just trust him. He's a veteran guy. He's been around for a while, so, I just got to put the ball, placement in a place where he can make that play, and he's been doing a heck of a job doing it.
Is this a testament to the fact that this is a whole entire new offense? You and Kevin are getting to know each other, and that it's a work in progress, and you think it'll probably get better week by week, right?
Yeah, it's a work in progress throughout the whole season, and we're not the only ones that is dealing with it. Every team is dealing with it. Some teams are hitting at the right time, and some teams are still building on. But for us, as the Cleveland Browns, we just working through it, and we're finding our stride, and we got to keep doing it. We got to make adjustments because we lost a great player last week, and a lot of shoes to fill. But at the same time, we just got to keep rolling and keep going. Each week is going to be a different game plan because it's a different scheme and a different way they're going to try to challenge us.
Scott, think about this. He and Cooper haven't played together that long, and you can already see that developing.
Yeah, and they spent time in the offseason together. They tried to work on that. They spent time off the field, on the field, just in those private workouts. But a lot of it comes from game experience, right? That's what all the quarterbacks and receivers like to remind us. I think it's important to remind people just how smart Cooper is. And Watson referred to it as, communicating and telling him what he's seeing on the sideline. Cooper's one of the smartest football players I've talked to. Really, expert in route running, expert in film study, can break down a lot of things, and I think that's invaluable and will help Watson. And I also think, there's so much talk about Elijah Moore, and I get it. He was a new guy. I'm kind of a new toy for the offense, and I think people expected him to have this outsized role, which the Browns are still working to figure out. But Cooper got lost in that, and I think he's reminded everyone through 3 games that he is the number one receiver. He's the number one target, and deservedly so.
Scott Petrick and I are going to step aside, take another timeout. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll also talk a little bit more about the defense. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Scott Petrick from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram as well as brownzone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, this is Randall McKissack, lifelong Browns fan, psyched about how well the Browns played yesterday. But I wanted to focus on how well Callahan is doing with that offensive line, specifically Webb and Jones. Do you think those two guys are improving, or do you still think that the Browns need to look at some alternatives for those guys? You think they're going to be able to hold up for the whole season? I'm worried about the offensive tackles. Those two guys were mentioned as potential weak spots for the Browns, offensive line, but it seems like they're doing okay. Deshaun Watson gets rid of the ball. They protect him. I'd love to hear your thoughts about how well you think those two guys are playing, and hopefully they're trending in a good direction.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Scott, Jones, I think, will probably keep getting better and better. Wills is kind of an average left tackle, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jones, I think there's a lot of reason to think highly of Jones, think highly of his potential, right? Just the size that he has, the feet. He has not been overmatched in his first 2 starts, first 3 games, including a really tough matchup against TJ Watt. He needs to get better in the run game. And I'm not an expert at that, breaking it down, but every time you talk to the coaches and the teammates, that's what they talk about is, okay, he still needs to get better in the run game. And you would think with those feet and that size that would come. And if it does, look out. In Wills, we've talked about this a bunch, Dave. I have a soft spot for Jed Wills. I think people are too hard on him. I get it. I understand the reasons. I understand what happened with Alex Highsmith at the end of that Steelers game, and that's on Jed Wills. I also know that he took the blame for it after the game. He took the blame for it again when I talked to him on Friday. he played well besides that in that game. He told me perfect besides that one snap. I don't think it was perfect, but I do think he played well besides that one snap. Now, I get it. That snap cost him the game. That isn't diminished. But I think if you just take a look at his body of work, I think it's better than average. I don't think it's Pro Bowl, but I think it's better than average. And I think the Browns, it's not like they can find another left tackle that's going to be better than Jed Wilson. He's not on the roster, and he's not available. So I think the hope is that he takes it to that next level and gets to that Pro Bowl form, which I do think he has that type of talent.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at him, there are plays where you see that. And as you alluded to, it's got to be there more consistently. And again, you're right. There's nobody you can find that is on the roster or the practice squad or anywhere that you're going to put in and is going to be better than what you have right now. So this is really, how good has Myles Garrett been? Let's take a look at the pass blocking grades for the last 3 left tackles that have played against him. Orlando Brown, he is at the head of the class with a 57 grade. Dan Moore with the Bluto Blutarski grade of 3.5, and Andra, I can't even say his name, Dillard yesterday, Andre Dillard, 26.2. So Myles Garrett just creating all kinds of havoc. And so you alluded to this. Let's show people what the Titans were trying to do. So Garrett moves to one side. The 2 tight ends for the Titans are following. He moves back and they follow him, and they're forced to get a timeout. But again, the 2 tight ends are following Myles Garrett around the formation. Kevin Stefanski was asked about that, if he's ever seen it before.
Have you ever seen 2 tight ends follow a defensive end from side to side like that?
No, I haven't. That was a first. I've seen one, but I've never seen 2.
I mean, you always talk about how teams try to take Myles out of the game first. Is that like just an over-the-top example of that?
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe we'll see 3 next time.
And Scott, that was you asking about it. I think Myles was kind of just messing with him initially.
Yeah, it was so funny. And I'm glad I asked the question of Myles after the game yesterday, because I was looking at my phone and I happened to see somebody had retweeted the clip. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm glad they said it, because I saw it live and wanted to bring it up to him. It's just so unusual. And the Steelers did it last year with 1 tight end. And, like, it's a badge of honor, but it's also annoying to Myles, because all of a sudden you always have a tight end on that side. And I think the stage in the game, they were winning by a bunch. He could afford to kind of mess around a little bit. But the reality is he made him take a timeout. And if that's their plan, the Browns are flexible enough that he can move over. Now, you know, if a team game plan, maybe they just run it right at that open spot or whatever. But, you know, I think the point is that these offenses are trying to do everything they can to slow him down, and they're not successful. And they go to extremes, and he's trying to counter that. And it was just a funny sight. And then they come out of the timeout, and he gets a sack that could have been a safety, because I thought he got held in the end zone.
So Myles Garrett was asked post-game yesterday just about the swagger and the attitude this defense has been playing with.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of guys with a lot of swagger. You've seen it, like the way Obo and Zeke walked in here. All those DBs, those guys, like, they feel that, they embody that. So someone who was going to, like, nurture that and bring that out of them, you couldn't ask for a better match. And he's really helped bring the most out of these guys, and he's going to continue to.
What would you like to wear the defensive big play chain, or whatever you guys are calling that, into the locker room at halftime?
Felt good. I wanted to force the ball out on that last one. I was reaching for it, but he bobbled a little bit and kept it. But at the end of the day, got him off the field without any points, and that's what really feels good. As far as the chain, that's something that the D-line does. As far as each person has a link, and we're only as strong as the weakest link, and we got each other's back. And I had our back on that play.
And you know what? That's a really cool idea for the defensive line. But you also hear, Jim Schwartz is a guy that's feeding the belief in each other.
Yeah, I must be too old because stuff like turnover chains, I just kind of roll my eyes. But I do appreciate the celebration, and I do appreciate the guys playing with incredible confidence in the way they carry themselves, and you can see that from like we talked about, every level of defense. You can see that, and it is a difference. It's an attitude, and Miles isn't wrong when he talks about Jim Schwartz really bringing that out of guys. He has embraced it, and the talent is number one and the scheme's number two, but that should not be ignored when we talk about the improvement this defense has made. That is a key part of it, just the attitude that Schwartz and the guys that were here and the new guys have brought to this unit.
Scott Petrick and I are going to step aside, take one more time out, other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. A little bit of a look ahead to the Ravens. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Continue talking Browns with Scott Petrick from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram as well as BrownZone.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. Great show. Howard from Marin County. Really happy that both my teams, the Buckeyes and the Browns, won. Deshaun Watson looks fantastic, although I do think the line still needs some improvement. I think DeJuan looks great, but the line definitely needs some work. The defense is fantastic. I don't know if I'd call them the 1985 Bears. Buddy Ryan. I don't know if we'll do that yet, but if they can beat Baltimore and they can beat San Francisco, then I'll start talking like I'm seeing a reincarnation of the 85 Bears and Buddy Ryan. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day. Nice to be happy for a change. Bye.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Scott, when you look at it, there will be 3 3-0 teams after tonight. You got the Dolphins, either the Buccaneers or the Eagles will be 3-0, and the 49ers are 3-0. So in spite of what was a disappointing loss, and Nick Browns are right where they had hoped to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long season, right? You got to keep stacking them. You got to hope you avoid any more major injuries. If they can beat Baltimore on Sunday, I don't think anybody would ask for more than 3-1 and 2-1 in the division heading into that early bye week. I know it could have been better with the Steelers, like you mentioned, but that's reasonable. You lose games in this league, you shouldn't lose. So that's why it's a big one Sunday, but it's a long season, and I just think we've seen by now that the Browns have enough talent to be in a bunch of these games and to be in this conversation throughout the year. Then it comes down to matchups on a given Sunday, play calls on a given Sunday, execution, right? Does Watson make the right play? Do they turn it over? Those things are going to be the difference, in my opinion, but whether or not they make the playoffs, whether or not they win the North or don't, because I think that they will be in the mix, and they should be in the mix all year long.
Yeah, and so Jake Trotter tweets this out. So the Browns are plus 41 in the point differential through 3 games. Only the 89 Browns were plus 58, had a better start in the Super Bowl era. The other thing about that is 14 of those, about 12, not 14, of the points were on the 2 defensive touchdowns that were given up by them. And they didn't win the turnover. They haven't won the turnover battle yet, and they're still 2-1.
Yeah, I think the turnover thing is key. They've only gotten 2 takeaways, and those were in the first quarter against Pittsburgh. Yet they continue to get off the field, right? Like Myles Garrett on Friday said, the next step is for us to score. Well, in order to score, you need to get more of those turnovers. You figure with the way the defense is playing, those will come in bunches. A lot of guys around the league feel it. That's how it happens. They do come in bunches. Now, they're not on the field for a bunch of plays, so that limits the opportunities, right? If you're only out there for 48 plays, there's less chance for you to take the ball away. But I do feel like they're set up to do that. I don't think there's any reason to believe this defense is going to fall apart. Now, they might have tough matchups, right? The Ravens are going to be a tough matchup because Lamar Jackson's a tough matchup. The Niners are going to be good because they're really good. But there's a lot of reason to think that, hey, this defense is going to remain where it is. And point differential, like that's one of the key stats every year to just how good a team is what their differential is.
So you mentioned the Ravens, and that's what's coming up Sunday. I'm really curious to see what the Browns do against them. I have a pretty good idea of how they're going to approach it with Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz is not somebody that is going to be, well, this guy does this, so we have to change.
I tend to agree with you. Now, we're not going to know till Sunday, or maybe he'll tell us Thursday when we talk to him, but it's an interesting discussion because, we've talked to Myles Garrett every year when they play Lamar Jackson. He talks about having to kind of hem in his rush, right? He can't be as aggressive because if you get too wide up the field, Lamar Jackson can run inside of you, and that's a danger. So Garrett has not always been as aggressive. We know with the wide 9, he's even farther out. So does Schwartz tweak that at all, or does he say, no, go get him? We're just going to get pressure from every spot, right, inside and outside. Our linebackers are fill in, and he can't escape, right? Like that's one way Schwartz could do it. I think that's probably what he will do. Play a lot of man and say, okay, throw into tight windows, Lamar, in a hurry. And that's not what Lamar does best. But there's danger to that. If you're playing a bunch of man and he tucks it and runs and your corners aren't looking, it's harder. He can go forever. So it's going to be interesting to see how Schwartz decides to handle that. I know some people think if you blitz Lamar a ton, that's the way to go. You play cover 0, bring everybody, get the ball out of his hands. We saw, I think it was Miami did it that one primetime game. I wouldn't be stunned to see Schwartz do that either.
Yeah, the thing is he hasn't looked great when you've sped him up. And, they were down to Melvin Gordon, who they elevated from the practice squad because Justice Hill, J.K. Dobbins done for the year. Justice Hill was out, and concussion was suffered by Gus Williams. So their top 3 running backs were all unable to go, and they ended up losing to the Colts in overtime.
Right. So if you think the run's not a threat, except for the quarterback, then maybe you drop 7 in coverage and say, okay, Lamar, throw into a bunch of bodies, right? Everybody's going to keep their eyes on you. We're not worried about you running the ball, throw into coverage. That's not how Schwartz has played to this point. So I don't know. Maybe he'll mix it up. Maybe we'll see some of both because I think both philosophies make some sense against a guy with Jackson's unique and unbelievable skill set.
Scott Petrak, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Scott.
Thanks, Dave.
Scott Petrak, make sure you check him out. Brownzone.com on the internet. He is also the Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. John McCree from Pro Football Focus, straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave Frank from Cleveland. I just want to touch on something, in my opinion. We should run Deshaun out of the shotgun, let him improvise, basically schoolyard football. I think that's what he's best at. I mean, I thought they returned the keys over to the guy that looks like they hemmed him up more than anything. You know, and that gives him a couple of, at least a tenth of a second more if he's in the shotgun. Under center, just no good. Okay, Dave, I love you, brother. Be safe. It's a jungle out there. You know it, and I know it. And great show as always.
Appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in John Macri from Pro Football Focus, host of the PFF Football Podcast. John, it seems like when Deshaun Watson has the defense in front of him, really good things happen.
Yeah, I think that was a great astute point from the listener there, because I looked at the numbers because I was interested in this myself, and they do run him out of shotgun a lot more. But looking at his passing grade too, 73.3 passing grade out of shotgun compared to just 50.5 passing grade when he's not in when he's not in shotgun. He's thrown over 500 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only 1 turnover worthy play in shotgun. And on the other side of that, he's been 13 for 19, 2 turnover worthy plays, 176 yards while not in shotgun. So there is a big difference there. I think it's a great point, and it does seem like they're using him more that way, and hopefully continues that way throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, and just so people understand, if you're under center, you have to turn your back to the defense, and it's almost like a blind spot. So closing your eyes for a few seconds. It does help scheme things open. You would think, though, it would get, if you've been in an offense 2-3 years, it probably gets a little bit easier to have that blind spot. Maybe not as much when it's first year in this, or year and a half in this offense.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely takes time to get used to. There's still, veteran quarterbacks, that maybe aren't in the league anymore, but never really liked doing play action or turning their back to the defense. Thinking about Ben Roethlisberger specifically, never really felt comfortable doing that. So I guess it does just depend on the quarterback, but I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it. And there is advantages, like you said, to doing that, utilizing more play action coming out of center, and creating some more advantages for the passing game as well.
So Deshaun Watson talked post-game just about rebounding from what was a really tough game in Pittsburgh against Steelers, and just was he trying to put that behind him?
Of course, it comes with, like I said before, it comes with the territory. But too much is given, much is required. And I've always lived by that, on and off the field. And being able to come out here, I knew the fans were going to come and support us. That's what the Cleveland Browns was. All the stuff that's online and outside noise, that stuff is minimal compared to what is really the foundation of this organization, for this city, for this town, and especially for this team. And, it comes with it. Every week is different. It's ups and downs and flows of this business, and that's the NFL. And we just got to ride with it and take it as it comes. So, I can't be down too low. I can't be too high after this game. I got to be balanced, and I got to watch the tape. And once we, come in tomorrow, we flush this W, and we got to get ready for Baltimore. And again, it's kind of the thing you want to hear from. He played really well, 80% completion percentage. That's got to be the message from your quarterback.
I think so, and it was a really nice bounce back game, like you said. I mean, 73.6 passing grade in this game, which was his highest passing grade in 9 games with the team, even dating back to last season. I know he had that one play there was a little odd that he threw the ball backwards when he was about to get sacked. So that, even with that play in there, his passing grade was still the best that he's had with the Browns, and played, other than that one play, played a very clean game, did exactly what I think we're kind of hoping to see from him this season, which is showing progress. And I mean, there were some big ones too. The throw to Amari Cooper down the sideline, which the ref prematurely blew his whistle and took a touchdown off the board. But an even better one to Donovan Peoples-Jones on a corner route in tight coverage. It was a perfectly thrown ball, dropped right in the bucket. You love to see stuff like that, but I think it's also important that the Browns kept things fairly simple for him in this one. 2/3 of his throws were short of the sticks. We saw his average depth of target drop from up over 10 in the first 2 games to 7.4 this week. And part of that is playing with the lead, and not needing to push the ball downfield as much, but still really nice stuff. And it keeps him comfortable, allows him to buy some time to progress in this offense while the playmakers can do their things, getting the ball in their hands, and of course allowing the defense to do their things, which I'm sure we'll get to in a bit as well.
Yeah. Did you notice and I know there was no Nick Chubb. Did you notice a difference in the offense with Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford, and what they were asking Deshaun Watson to do?
Yeah, it was a little bit different. I mean, Jerome Ford's role pretty much stayed to what we expected it to be, stepping in for Nick Chubb. And Kareem Hunt probably works in there a little bit as well. But I think there's, room for this run game to grow. I know this last game wasn't maybe the best example of what it could be, but they're also playing against the Titans defense, which their strength as an entire team has been their run defense over the last 2 years. So I think that there's going to be better matchups for this team. I like that they were able to get more of an effort to get Elijah Moore involved as well. They lined him up on the backfield in 17% of his snaps. They also schemed up a lot of touches for him. He had 9 targets in the game, just 1.2 yards average depth of the target. So kind of a way to supplement the run game there when it isn't necessarily working as well. So there's more things that they can kind of do there to try to make up for Nick Chubb's absence.
So you mentioned the defense in passing. Take a look at this. This is how good that defense was in Week 3 against the Tennessee Titans. 26 yards rushing allowed, 4.6 per passing attempt, just 5 first downs, no touchdowns allowed. They gave up the 3 points on a drive again where the offense had negative yardage. After the turnover, they pushed them back.
The defense has been incredible. They've been the story of the season so far, and I don't think just in Cleveland. I think the NFL needs to take notice because through 3 weeks, their Browns defense has allowed a positive EPA per play rate of just 24.3%, which is by far the best mark in the league. EPA essentially being another advanced metric that measures the value of each play for the offense and how likely they are to contribute points. And then the Browns are just not allowing much offensive success at all so far this season. And I think there's potentially room for them to even improve in the box score, which I could talk about as well, but I won't take up the whole time here.
John Macri and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear from Myles Garrett, talk a little bit about the defense, and look ahead to the Ravens. Sports for CLE, be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with John Macri from Pro Football Focus, co-host of the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. Myles Garrett was asked post-game if these first 3 games have given just a glimpse of what this Browns defense can be.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good glimpse, and just got to keep on showing it. Like you said, it's Week 3, and every week's a new week. We got to be consistent. We got to keep everybody on the field healthy, and we got to adjust and adapt to each team. Got to know the game plan and attack and execute just like we did.
It seems like every move you made today worked. How good does that feel when you know that you can go in your bag and do whatever you want?
It's funny you say that because I was just talking to JOK how like the moves I felt were really going to work didn't work. And then some of the moves I'm just like, the hell with them. I'm just going to burn them off the edge. And those worked. I was like, sometimes you just got to keep on attacking.
So Euro step wasn't working?
I Euro stepped right into a chip and busted my nose. So I was like, all right, enough of the Euro step. We're just going to take things a little bit more simple.
I know you're not into like individual performances, but where does this performance by you today rank in some of the games you've had here?
Again, like you said, I don't think about the individual performances. I think it's great. able to make big plays for the team, and that's what it's all about. Putting them first and helping us get on that win column. And haven't thought about how this ranks up to any of the other games. Just happy to be on winning side of things. Happy to make my guys proud and make this coaching staff proud.
And earlier in the show, John, we showed where the 2 tight ends were following him, and it forced a timeout. You don't see that hardly ever.
No, you don't. That was special treatment for a special player, essentially. And I'd be interested to see if we get more of that, because you love to see it. I love Myles Garrett, obviously one of the best defensive players in the league, if not the best. So deserves the treatment, and he's still able to come up with 3.5 sacks.
Yeah, and again, take a look at it. So some of the numbers are for the defense that they're piling up. Total yards allowed, first. Rushing yards allowed, first. Passing yards allowed, first. Third down, first downs allowed, only 7. Third down percentage, below 20. Points allowed, 10.7. And as I mentioned, 2 of those touchdowns, so 14 of those points, the offense actually allowed. And it's been, again, it hasn't like they're beating the easy teams. It's been the Bengals, and I know they're beat up, the Steelers and the Titans. Those are 3 teams that are expected to be in the playoff mix.
Yeah, they've had tough competition. I know even the rest of this early part of the season here, it's a tough schedule. I think they get Baltimore next week, so it doesn't get much easier. But the way this defense is playing has just been they've been lights out. It's hard to argue that they're going to be competitive in these games when the defense is playing the way they are. And I mean, I hinted at it before, but some of the numbers could be even better. They're 10th in the league in sack conversion rate, despite being 5th as a team in overall pressure rate, 2nd in the league in quick pressure rate, and then 1st in the league in average time to pressure as well. So there's room even for the defense to have some positive regression in the sack column, looking at some of those numbers, especially once guys like Zadarius Smith get going as well. So there's just so much potential here for this defense.
So you look over, and the Ravens lost a tough game in overtime, where Justin Tucker missed like a 61-yard field goal that would have won it. Lamar Jackson, he kind of took over the game and ran the football once top 3 running backs for the Ravens are out. What do you see when you look at the Ravens?
Yeah, it's never easy to contain Lamar Jackson, but that's kind of the obviously the main focus. It's easier said than done, but they've got some weapons now at wide receiver. I know Odell Beckham didn't play last week, but Zay Flowers has shown already in his rookie year to be an electric player with the ball in his hands. Rashad Bateman, another first-round pick there. So even without the running backs there, they've always found ways to kind of be efficient with their touches in the run game because of what Lamar Jackson, the threat of Lamar Jackson brings to the table. It allows for more potential for the running backs, but Jim Schwartz, the way he runs his defense, he's going to stack the box as well. There's going to be some guys that play up there. Grant Delpit has done an amazing job as the strong safety for Cleveland so far this year, and I think he could be a big part in that upcoming game in trying to help contain Lamar Jackson as well.
The other thing that you've kind of, Jim Schwartz does what he does and wants to dictate things. Do you expect him to kind of turn loose the front and then kind of deal with, all right, we need 11 guys coming to Lamar Jackson because he's probably going to run with it?
Yeah, I think we're going to see some pretty stacked boxes, a lot of mugged up fronts here, hopefully to contain Lamar Jackson, because if you're able to kind of get him off of his game, limit him to just being a passer, I think it creates more potential for that defense to have success. And obviously, look, there's, like I said, there's guys that he can throw the ball to, but creating pressure is going to be the main thing. We've seen this defense be able to do that, which is super important, especially for this upcoming game. I think they're going to be able to do it, especially against Zadarius Smith, Obo Okoronkwo, Myles Garrett, obviously being chief among them. But there's guys that can blitz off the edge as well. At the linebacker position, I think JOK is an interesting player who could work into this game and be a factor as well.
And when Lamar Jackson has been sped up, is when that offense has struggled a little bit.
Yeah, for so far this season, I mean, he hasn't got off to the hot start under this, Todd Monken offense. They've obviously, didn't come up with the win this past week, but they were also expected to be a little bit more of a pass-heavy team this year. We haven't really seen that, even with injuries to guys like J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. So they're spread out a little bit more. They're a little bit more 11 personnel than what we've been used to, but they're still a very run-heavy team. So getting after him on the limited passing attempts that he'll have is going to be key. And then this Browns defense, they're going to be good at stopping the run, I think, no matter what.
John Macri, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, John.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
John Macri, Pro Football Focus. Check him out, the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.